The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bit by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey there, and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is Andre Mayetta. I'm your podcast host. Big thanks to Uka the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. And big thanks to you, listener, for tuning in once again to another show. Today I speak with Dietrich O. Smith. Very interesting conversation with a guy who's been involved with comics for a very long time, doing art and a lot of cool books, and a little bit of animation, but then came back to the comics, as we often do, and built a career for himself. So, great conversation, very cool guy, and I say that a lot, eh? You know, sometimes when I record these, because I do them weekly, sometimes coordinate with other people, I have to record these well in advance, but also like I record the conversation with people pretty close to each other. So often when I mix them, put them together, and then, you know, listen to them one after the other, you're like, oh man, I say the same shit a lot. I guess that's all part of it, right? When you do a show like this, you kind of fall into habits, certain traits, say certain things that come back, get some catchphrases inadvertently, I suppose, but here we are. So while I'm recording this intro is when I'm just involved with a play with Hubtown Theatre here in Truro. It'll drop probably, a month after it's over. But, we're doing a Broadway musical review show in which I'm the host. So I have this joke that I say as the host. I say, I've been involved with Hubtown Theatre for 18 years. I've been involved with Dinner Theatre for 15 years. With all that experience, I've never been a very confident singer. Which is why I was overjoyed when the directors of this show, Annalise and Lisa, approached me saying they wanted to talk to me about their Broadway review show. I thought maybe this is my chance to shine. Maybe I'm not the world's worst singer. Maybe I'll discover a hidden talent even I didn't know I had. And then they asked me to host. So it is with great pleasure and crushing disappointment that I stand before you, tonight's MC. That kind of sums it up a little bit. Not really. Like I've never been crazy confident with singing. I never thought I was a good one. My voice is low, and I feel like if I do sing in a certain register, it's okay. But it's certainly not enough to be doing a full song by myself or anything like that. So I'm happy to be the host, to do the host thing, and have fun with that. I get to do some comedy a little bit in there and get the audience laughing. So that's always a blast and something I'm happy to do. So, by the time you're hearing this, it's long gone, and I'm assuming it went well, and I guess I'll report back if it didn't. But for now, it's going great. It's a lot of fun, and I do really enjoy theater, and even if it's a part of theater that I'm not big on, like musical theater, because I don't think I have the talent for that, it's still great to be a part of it and see so many amazing, talented people and meet some cool folks along the way. But speaking of meeting cool folks along the way, today I met Dietrich O. Smith, who is as I mentioned before, does a lot of work with some comics, worked recently on the big ones with the big guys, the big folks, and is continuing on to do some pretty cool work as well, and has a lot of connections to previous people on the show as well, which we get into. But why wait longer? Why do I need to say we'll get into it? Why can't we just get into it? And I think we shall. Get into it, we shall. Here's my conversation with Dietrich O. Smith.
Good. Nice warm day. Good warm day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm stuck inside drawing, so.
Yeah, I think that's like every artist's, bane that I talk to. They're like, well, it's cold, it's whatever, but it doesn't matter what day it is. I'm just stuck inside drawing.
Yeah.
Where are you? Where are you located at?
I'm in Alabama.
Wow.
Yeah, the good old Southern state, Yellowhammer state of Alabama.
Is that where you grew up?
Yeah. Well, I'm an Army brat, so this is where I was born. Germany, Japan, last few years of high school here and college here, but
Awesome.
Pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
Your father in the Army, Navy?
Army.
Right on.
Retired Army.
Oh wow. So he must have been in there as a lifer, really, if you guys were moving
Yeah,
around so much.
yeah. I guess first grade I started and didn't stop until 10th grade. And then, he said, "Hey, you can stay with your grandparents. I'm sure you're sick of moving around with us, so.
Yeah. Do you find it tough to make friends or put down roots anywhere, I'd assume?
Well, it was good friends, but with Facebook now, you're able to reconnect, and there's so many groups. There are my old Okinawa, Japan, high school friends that have gatherings and reunions in Vegas all the time. So yeah,
Well, that's awesome.
yeah.
Were comics something that you picked up along your travels? Is that something that was like a constant?
Well, yeah, I think that's when I really got really deeply involved in comics. I think I don't know, fifth grade or sixth. No, it was probably sixth grade. Um, Getting a hold of like George Perez, the Teen Titans, and stuff like that. When I was over in Germany, over in Japan. Um, but I always loved comics. Always loved Saturday morning cartoons. I always was drawing, but I guess when I moved over there in about fifth or sixth grade is when I really got deep into comics.
Were American comics easy to get in Japan?
Oh, well, we were, we had our, military base in there,
Right.
yeah, it had everything in it, of course. It would always be, sometimes a month late, but, but,
Yeah, I guess I've talked to a few other folks that have, like yourself, have gone, had military parents that have taken them around. And I always kind of forget that, that the bases in those other countries were almost like mini towns themselves, right?
yeah.
Like,
So, yeah, you were on one base and then you left the base and you went 5 miles and you get to the next base. That's how my school was. My home was on one base, then you left the base, you drive, 5 miles down the road and get to your school base. The other base is the movie theater and then, the bowling alley. So yeah, I was always at the BX trying to find, novels and comics to read. Yeah. So.
was there a good community of other kids that you could talk about comics with?
Oh yeah. We were totally into, everything. I'm not sure if the Beyonder series came out around that time, and so we had the Secret Wars, all of that. We had a lot of things, to discuss and talk about. Yeah.
I had a conversation with my brother about that the other day because I was visiting with him and he brought out a box of our old comics when we were kids. That he still had some of them. I still have all of them, but he still had a box of the ones he used to read a lot. And he had all those Secret Wars 2 ones where like the Beyonder really was like right in the forefront. And he had that like great 80s white suit, the like, yeah. It's very reminiscent of the time. Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. So were you drawing as well, like as this was going on?
Well, I think I started drawing with my grandparents, grandmother, great grandmother. Sunday mornings, they would always, after church or anything, we'd all just gather and they would pull out the Sunday morning strips and let me trace Snoopy, Charlie Brown and Lucy and Blondie, Dennis the Menace. I was constantly, tracing everything. And then, of course, with the Super Friends, that had to be the top show, and then the Bionic Man, Muhammad Ali had his cartoon out at the time.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, Ricky Rocket. I mean, it was, Space Ghost, so I was constantly from 5 years old. I think about 5 or 4 years old, I was trying to draw my own, comic, and I called him Prodigy. He was a intelligent, gifted child who was a genius, and it wasn't me, but it was, it was.
Well,
I think he was modeled after sort of like Snoopy or Charlie Brown, how snarly Charlie Brown looked.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
Well, that's still for a 4-year-old, like even to use the word prodigy is pretty advanced.
Yeah. I was trying to come up with my own little comic Sunday strip. I was going to, sell it, pay for college and everything.
Did you have any brothers or sisters as well? Like going
but none were my age. I was way older.
Oh,
so
really?
they when they got older, it was the Care Bears. I was past that. They were onto the Care Bears and everything of that nature. I was on He-Man. You know? So it's like we couldn't really relate. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny those shifts that come with because I have a brother that's 5 years older than me, which isn't like a massive gap, but it's massive enough during those years because when you're into the young kid stuff, he's already moved on. You
Right,
know,
right, right,
like
right. Yeah.
so hard to connect on those levels. But
And like I said, if I'm on Transformers and you're on Care Bears with rainbows coming out of their bellies, we can't relate, man.
yeah, oh yeah. Care
Catch
Bear,
me in 5 or 6 years, then we'll talk.
Care Bears was a big one for me.
Yeah.
I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, we had the CBC was sort of the company that would just I feel like that it may have been animated in Canada or parts of it were because it was shown here a lot, which made me think something about that. But that was a big one for me growing up as well. Yeah. So what book you mentioned you're reading books too? Like what books are you trying to read as well?
Oh, at that time I was reading what was it? The Wild Card series. Are you familiar with George R. R. Martin's
Yes, yes, yeah. I was going to say his other one that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah, yeah. I was into that. Pretty much every little basic thing. The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, A Wrinkle in Time, books like that. Yeah.
Mm. I've never read The Wrinkle in Time. I watched the movie and I really didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't care for the movie.
Yeah, I really didn't like it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh no. There's a graphic novel that came out a few years ago about it that I grabbed in a used store somewhere. I've been meaning to read it to kind of give me more of an insight. Like I'm a big reader as well, and I feel like that book's probably more of a kid's book. But I was hoping if I could, maybe get into it through the graphic novel side of things,
Yeah.
like I may be able to assess it in a different way.
Trying to think, what was the other one? Was it A Bridge to Tabernathia? I think that was another one that got turned into a movie. That was about a friend losing a friend in life. Yeah.
Oh, Bridge to Terabithia.
Yeah, Terabithia. Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. We read that in grade school, I think.
Yeah.
Which actually is a heavy book to get kids to read.
Yeah, I know.
You're like, death is coming for us all. Now you're going to find out about it, and you're 10 years old. Yeah, like, yeah, the heavy theme to drop on a bunch of kids.
I was talking to a friend about that the other day. I was saying they made us read what was the where the red fern grows,
Yep.
and it was about the dogs.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, they throw so much heavy weight on you at that age. It's like I know they're trying to introduce you to death and things of that nature, but man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess like I remember doing The Outsiders, and that's like guy getting stabbed to death. Like, I mean, bunch of Shakespeare stuff does that too, but for some reason, because of the language, it seems a little less, But we did The Most Dangerous Game, like the original short story, which was like a rich guy hunting other humans on an island, and you're like, you're like, oh, yeah. All right, yeah, the rich are able to do a lot of things we can't. That's good to know at the age of 12. Well, very cool. So, like, I guess with a military parents, I assume they were very. I mean, I don't want to make this assumption, but like when you were like, I want to pursue a career in the arts, were they welcoming of that, or is that something that?
Well, I kind of sprung it on them at the last minute because I actually attended Auburn for mechanical engineering.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was going for engineering, and in the middle, was it the summer of the sophomore semester, I saved up enough money, and they thought that money was, to head back down after the summer. That money was to take a flight to California to try to break into the comic book industry. Because I caught myself I tell the story all the time. I caught myself in a math exam. You know how they give you a blank sheet of paper to do the side problems on? I was drawing cable. on that page, and that's when I knew, okay, I'm not destined to, finish this degree here in engineering. I think I need to be drawing superheroes because at that time the whole big image wave was riding high. X-Force, had just dropped. Jim Lee was on, X-Men, and then they moved over and did, Youngblood and Wildcats, and they were putting out the whole talent search hunt. And that's when I caught myself, just scribbling too much in books. And I took the chance and dropped out of college and moved out with a few friends. to California and hustled around, got a part-time job at a clothing store and went to different conventions after this and that, and bumped into quite a few, more talented artists that were trying to do the same. It was more reach in California than it was for me back in Auburn and Alabama. It wasn't really the comic book wave was as large. I had a few comic friends at Auburn, but no one was trying to break in. Everybody was there, studying their degree. But when I took the chance and moved out to California, that's when I ran into so many comic book stores and so many conventions and so many networking avenues.
So were you taking like a portfolio to tables at conventions to try to meet
Yeah,
people
yeah,
that way?
yeah, yeah. And it was really funny because a good friend, Matt Scott, was a manager at a clothing store, but he was trying to get into the comic book business himself. So he was a writer. Matt actually ended up doing a book called More Than Mortal at Image many, many, many years later. So we ended up, starting on the same path. And he did a independent book, and we tried to market it. So our first convention, he sent me to Toronto, and that's where I met Dan Fraga, who was a intern with Rob Liefeld at Extreme Studios. So the funny story is when they took me to solicit the book in Toronto, the book never made it to the convention. And so I'm down on my luck and down on my knees and Dan Fraga, who's a good man, walked by and, happened to notice some of my art on the table and heard my, bad look about it. And, we ended up hanging out that weekend. And that's when when I came back to California, the weekend after, that's when he started inviting me to the Extreme Studio. So that's how I ended up getting my way into pretty much the mainstream. I got hired as an intern by Rob Liefeld a few weeks later, and have been in the industry ever since.
What was Rob like to work for?
Very free.
Yeah.
He was not very controlling, and I think that's why a lot of us didn't meet a lot of deadlines.
That's not surprising. I don't know much about the guy, but just for like a cursory glance of like his social media stuff, seems like he just shoots from the hip pretty much all the time.
Yeah,
Does his own thing. Well, that was quite an era to get in on all that. Like that was such a big part of comics, like those Extreme Studio books and all that Image stuff, and it's a real shift in like the whole genre.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I was there for maybe a year and a half, and the studio ended up disbanding. And I ended up going into the animation field for a few years.
Oh, really?
I worked at Sony Animation and MGM Studios for a bit. Worked on, do you remember the Jumanji cartoon, the Men in Black cartoon?
Oh, I remember the Men in Black cartoon.
Ghostbusters Extreme cartoon.
Wow.
Was it RoboCop Commando was the Alpha? I totally forget RoboCop.
Do you know Brad Rader?
Yeah.
I've had him. I've had him on the show. His episode isn't out yet, but it'll be coming up soon. So I've had him on recently, and I also just talked before you to Chuck Patton, who is also.
Oh yeah.
So.
No, Chuck as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. That's nice when I get. It's the person that reached out to you originally. My producer Davin. He must have been on the same train because a lot of people that I've been talking to are all connected through some of those projects. So, yeah, that real Ghostbusters cartoon, that must have been interesting. Well, the Men in Black one I remember distinctly because that was my pocket, like when I was growing up, because like that's when Fox was doing all these cartoon versions of the popular movies. We got like the Godzilla one and the Men in Black one, and
what was the name of that? The studio was Saban, I think. Saban Studios.
Yeah, they were the ones that did all the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger stuff too.
Right.
But they did the X-Men cartoon as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
Fox one, yeah.
That's who actually hired me to be on the RoboCop was Larry Houston, the guy.
Oh, really?
Who started that whole intro scene for X-Men.
That's awesome. We the other podcast I do is with Davin. We watch that cartoon and go through it. And Davin's been trying to get. We've had people that are writers and animators from the show and voice actors as well on, but Davin's been struggling to try to get Larry to come on the show for years. He keeps reaching out. He's like, Larry keeps sharing stuff. He's like, but he hasn't answered my message. It's like he's messing with me. He's probably a very busy dude, you know. So well, that's very cool. Well, like interesting. Like, so what were you doing? Were you actually animating, or were you doing character designs, or that's?
I was doing storyboards and then a little bit of storyboard cleanups. Yeah, I started out doing storyboard cleanups and then moved to storyboards and then moved to storyboard supervisor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Larry Houston hired me to be a storyboard supervisor for MGM on the RoboCop cartoon. Yeah.
Oh, wow. How was that?
That was very fun. You're just coming in and making adjustments and corrections and, and cutting certain things and cleaning up certain things.
It's always interesting to me.
I had a better time when that project ended. He ended up hiring me doing storyboards on Spider-Man Unlimited. I think it only lasted one season or 2 seasons. I think
yeah. I love that cartoon.
It was sort of like a Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah. When he goes to counter Earth with all the high evolutionary. Yeah. I love that cartoon. When I was a kid,
I storyboarded a few episodes out of that.
Oh, really? That's cool. It's quite a bit. I've talked to people like that have done comics and animation, and you don't realize how transferable those skills are. Because I mean, you're really using a panel to tell a story, and then using that, to transferring that into the animation world or even the film world too, right? It's kind of the same difference.
Yeah. Not throughout my time in the business, I've learned from quite a few individuals who've helped me tell a story very well. Larry Houston gave me a few books to read. When I was with Rob, Jim Valentino stepped in the studio for quite a bit and gave a little, Monday night or Wednesday night course on art of storytelling all the time. Yeah, so I've learned from quite a few individuals. And I'm trying to help as much as I can along the way. If anybody, ever reaches out on Instagram or Twitter or asks me, how did you get started and this and that and that, I just tell them, hey, I was using the fax machine back in the day. So, but everybody's so blessed with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook now. Upload things and and now with Kickstarter and all these, crowdfunding projects. So that's why I tell them you don't need the major publishers to tell your story now. Hey, crowdfunding can help you.
Yeah, and it also can give you, most people now want to see. It is funny because it's this whole other side of the game that, you never had back in the day, which is like they're looking at how many followers you have, like in that sort of stuff. So it's like this whole other level of that. It's like if you have enough followers to kickstart a book, you probably have enough that'll follow you to a mainstream book.
Right.
If your fundamentals are fine, then they'll probably take a shot at you. But if you have a finished book that you can show them, which you can easily do now with even self-publishing and Kickstarter and all that sort of stuff, it's kind of like the days of, I remember when I was younger reading Wizard magazine and just seeing submissions, like how to submit through that. Yeah. And then, all those things. And they would send you, like you would have to email or mail in the mail, DC, and they have to send you a package. You have to do what it said and then send it in. I remember when I was younger, I like probably in my late teen years, I tried 1 or 2 of those. I think there was like contests for it was like skull kickers or one of those like Jim Zub's they had some kind of a thing where you'd would animate a 2-page story and you could maybe get into his comics. So I didn't make it, unfortunately. I did have him on the show and we talked about it, which is funny. But like those sort of things were kind of a bygone era. Now it's
man, I remember Wizard. I used to only buy it so I could see some Bart Sears, on how to do anatomy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those, the Brutes and Babes, right?
Yeah,
those segments. Yeah, those were something too. Like I remember, I think I have it behind me on the. Those are art books, but when I was a kid, the library had the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, the Stan Lee book, and that was like my Bible when I was a kid. Like I took it out almost. I kept the library. Eventually was like, look, you've been taking this out every week for like 3 months. Maybe leave it on the shelf for a while, till eventually I could grow up and find my own copy. But well, that's very cool. So what was the first? So after you had, so you went from Liefeld Studio to animation, and then back to comics.
Yep, back to comics. I think, and I tell everybody this, I think there's just too many chefs in the kitchen in animation. what you spend, a week, 2 weeks working on, storyboard wise, and then you see it ran in animatics, and well, sometimes a lot of things get cut. In comics, what you draw is what's printed, unless the editor comes in and tells you to make a minor adjustment on this or that. But
Yeah.
what you lay down is the foundation, and that's it. So yeah, and I guess I don't know, just wanting to put things in panels, and like I said, you're seeing it in live, but it's not yours. You just did the storyboards. They shipped it overseas, and they animated it for you. No, it's not what I drew. And you're going off of other people's models.
Yeah.
So,
Do you find you work better in a less collaborative format when it's a little bit your own thing?
yeah.
I feel like a lot of artist types are like that. I always find it hard to trust other people with projects, to work with other folks. It's like you get burned in, especially artistic types are generally less, I don't want to like throw them all under the bus because I'm one of them, but like to be a little less regimented or a little less, sticking to any kind of a plan or a deadline. So
Right.
I find it tough, it's hard to rely on people, I find sometimes in that way. And that's just me, but I feel like it might be an art thing too. Because, especially if you're somewhat dedicated to your art and you don't want other people, have to give up control of that.
Right.
Well, at least with the editors, you kind of have your own system. So what comic did you get back into when you got out of animation?
Oh, when I got out of animation, what did I come over to? I'm trying to remember. That's many, many years ago. That was maybe that was like 2000 when I left animation. So I'm trying to, whew.
Oh, that's quite all right. You have quite a few books in your
Yeah.
on your comics find and other things like that as well. So.
Yeah. You know what? I think it may have been my own. I think I tried to launch my own independent book through Image called Hawkshaws.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how I came back into the industry. It didn't sell well enough, so I think I had to try to find another work with Marvel or DC. I'm not sure.
Well, like when you had done Marvel stuff, because this is back when, like I'm looking at just a few of the things I see in your comics find. And it has you labeled for JLA. What did you work on that?
I think I did maybe an issue fill in, and then I think it was like an oversized issue, and I did like 4 or 5 pages out of it. I'm not sure. It wasn't anything major.
Was it great? It was Grant Morrison's one though, right? Was that the one? That's the one that has it.
Oh, wait, no, was that?
It may just be the art they're using it to display it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wait, Superman and Wonder Woman on their knees with I'm trying to remember.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah. Or was that the one I did do a half issue?
Yeah, it has you listed on that, the Morrison's JLA run from like when he had started that series, but it may just be that was the first issue in, like you may have done an issue on JLA, but it might have been later on.
Yeah.
That's when it started.
I think I may have done two fill-ins, and I don't even think it was a full fill-in. I think I was just half the artist.
So what was like being that you worked on the Men in Black cartoon? I see you worked on when Marvel tried to bring back the comic for a little while when the movies came out.
I actually did the comic for the movie, but it wasn't for the well, no, it was by the original writer. Was it Lowell Cunningham?
Yeah. I've had on this show I've had Sandy Carruthers on. He was like the first guy drawing those comics way back in the day.
So I think Marvel asked me. I don't even think it was Marvel then. I think it was what was their
Malibu?
Yeah, it was Malibu. I think Malibu reached out to me and told me, "Hey, Marvel has got a movie coming out with Tommy Lee and Will Smith, and it's called Men in Black, and we want to pitch you with Lowell, who's the original creator of it, and it's not going to be Will Smith character; it's going to be the character before Will Smith." And I was just like, "Yeah, whatever." I had no idea, how big, Men in Black was going to be after that.
Yeah.
I got pitched the movie. I mean, I got pitched the assignment before the movie even came out. So yeah.
That's funny how that works in that system, because they it's like I love when you hear some of these stories talking to people about like how excited, or at least like the job of these producer types or editors, whoever's running these things, to try to like, they think everyone is as excited as they are. With this
Yeah.
giant properties. It's like, it's a job, man. I'll draw whatever you want me to. Just tell
Yeah,
me what
yeah,
to
I
change.
know.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. How much am I getting paid? What's my page rate?
That's the important question, right?
Yeah, how long, what are my deadlines? You gonna squeeze me again like you did last time? You only gave me 5 days to do 14 pages?
Oh, Jesus. My God.
Yeah, that's how a lot of editors are when they call you on fill-ins. They know you can't turn it down because
Mm.
hey, you've been waiting for the call, but then they give you the deadline time. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's never, they never call when things are going well. It's
Yeah.
always when they desperately get someone dropped off for some reason and they
Yeah.
desperately need you to fill in. Well, that's interesting. I did notice you worked on, I have a few different jobs that I do. One is I'm a professional wrestler, and I noticed you worked on the Ultimate Warrior comic, Warrior.
I did, but it was just a double pager. It was for one of his Christmas um like pinup books.
Hmm.
And it was just funny because he had actually called. This was when I was living with the old extreme roommate Murat Michaels. Murat was out, and I ended up getting a call. I answered the phone. He was like, "Is this Murat?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, this is the Ultimate War." I was like, "Okay, being for real." Who am I speaking with? And I was like, "This is Dietrich Smith." Oh, Dietrich, how would you like to do a pin? I was like, "Yeah, okay, calm down. I would love to," because I really did think I was getting pranked. I thought I was getting, job at the time. But it was actually true. And yeah, so I did a pin up for his Christmas pinup book.
Man, that's surreal. It's so weird. It's like
Yeah.
the phone call from the war, who at this point had changed his name, legally changed his name to Warrior, so that
Yeah,
he
yeah.
could use it in other promotions from besides WCW and WWE. But man, that's surreal. That doesn't surprise me in the least. Like they did there's a show on Vice called Dark Side of the Ring, which is just sort of about the history of some of these wrestlers and like the dark sides of some of these histories. And they did a whole episode on his life, and he's just like was such a hype guy. Like everything was hype. So I love that he just calls people up and still stays in character
Oh
while
yeah, yeah. He's
hiring artists.
I don't know if he ever came out of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, like I said, when his voice came out like that, I was like, "There's no way this is really him," because he's trying to talk like that. It's like, okay, cool. Stop the imitation. Whoever it is calling me.
I see you worked on like was Nightman a Malibu character?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that was when Marvel and Malibu were kind of
We're
collaborating on a few projects.
still
Yeah,
teamed up. Yeah.
yeah, because that Ultraverse stuff. Yeah, wow, that's bringing me way back. I was talking to someone recently, and it might have been Eric Larson about, was it Eric? About that Malibu Ultraverse stuff. How that's like deep in Marvel's vault, and they have no intention of bringing any of that back.
I don't understand why. It's a few good characters in there. Was it Ultraman? I'm trying to remember his
Oh,
name.
Prime. There's that guy. The
Yeah,
Superman.
Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it had something to do with the rights issue. Actually, it might have been who was I talking to recently? But somebody I was talking to recently that did some work in those worlds, and I think he said it's something to do with the rights issue because it was Fred Van Lente, I think.
Oh,
And he said that something to do with the rights because like the deals that were signed by Malibu with the creators gave the creators more ownership over that stuff than
yeah.
Marvel is prepared to probably pay out if they bring those characters back or do any of that sort of stuff again.
Okay.
But yeah, it was interesting. It was an interesting time. Like, it's funny when you look back at that, and I mean, because you were right in it. Like, and you look back at that sort of time period and all of these characters, and even like all the Image ones. Like, I think of Shadowhawk and all those guys.
Yeah.
That came out and sort of like what ones have endured and lingered and stayed, and what ones have sort of filtered off.
Right, right.
But what was that like combining those two worlds, like working on Gambit and Nightman?
Well, I had really not too much knowledge of Nightman. This was before the TV series.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't he like a jazz playing like?
Yeah.
Like, I just love how they try to like combine all the coolest parts of like let's make him a jazz musician, and then he can only like come out at night.
So I try to do my little, run back to the comic book store and read up on them as much as I could before I got the assignment, because I think that was one of my first assignments that I got after Rob ended up disbanding the whole Extreme Studios. I think that was one of my first gigs, was working at Malibu on this Nightman Gambit series. And yeah, working with Malibu was sort of my end to Marvel, because I believe after I worked on the Nightman Gambit series, then I did the Spider-Man thing that's listed on the comic vine. Was it the Spider-Man Hulk team up?
Right.
And then I got gifted with a What If Wolverine series. So yes, Malibu helped me, get major work with Marvel.
And that
Before
carried
they
on for
closed the
quite a
door.
while. Like you worked on the Incredible Hulk series with Hank,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then the Hercules spinoff of that as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Actually, to be truthful, I actually worked with DC Comics over a longer span,
Hmm.
but I worked on a series called The Seventh Helper, did 7 full issues, took me close to a year, and it was never published. So they kept me, they kept me employed with them for quite a bit. I think after that 7 issues, then I did a series called The Next. Then they had me on The Outsiders, and then they had me on, my goodness, what else did I do with that? I can't. But yeah, I think mainly my added up my most time working was with DC, or it could have been with Dynamite. Maybe it was with Dynamite. I'm not sure.
Did you have was there like creatively was it easier with certain companies than others to kind of
No,
flex your
every editor is different, but every editor treats you the same. Get pages in, turn them in. Uh, and I was always blessed to be with individuals that were always looking out for me and always trying to find me future work, even if they didn't have it.
Mm,
They're always trying to find me different avenues with other editors, or trying to point me with a friend that they knew, yank me with future employment.
that's awesome. I like you've done quite a few sort of adaptations from existing properties, right? Like I see Army of Darkness and Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah,
And a
yeah.
lot of those adaptations, you find it interesting. Like, I don't know how much you pay attention to like how the fans feel about these sort of things, but like, do you find it trying to appease fans of these original properties and their show forms or comic strips? No, no. Stay away from the fandom.
Well, I think I kind of know the characters well enough. I watched Army of Darkness. I watched The Evil Dead enough. I watched Battlestar Galactica enough, the old '80s series and the
Hmm.
new. So I thought I was, doing well enough job.
No, that's
So
cool.
I
Well,
mean,
I'm interested in the Shaft adaptation you did. I have to look into that. I didn't know they had done some recent Shaft comics.
yeah. I worked on that with David, who I'm actually doing a book with right now. So that's what I'm currently working on. Working on a graphic novel with David Walker. Can't really discuss much of it. It's a crime comic,
Oh, cool.
yeah, pulp fiction type novel, called Heart of Darkness. I can at least give you the
Oh,
title.
okay. I don't assume it's an adaptation of the Conrad novels, so.
No,
Oh, that's very cool. No, yeah. Do you like? I guess as far as like the art side of things go, do you have a preference for the superhero side of things, or do you like to do the crime books, or is it just like
um,
letting you flex your wings in different ways?
truthfully, and I like doing crime, and I like drawing people out of costume more than I
Hmm.
do in costume. But don't get me wrong, I love drawing a double pager with people knocking folks out left and right. But being able to tell a story of someone sipping, or smoking on a cigarette as they tell their story, that I feel like I'm accomplishing more.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I can see how that would be. Like, I think. Like I just recently read the comic adaptation, well, not the comic adaptation, the comic of Road to Perdition that they made the movie out
Mm-hmm.
of.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, because I love that movie, and then I don't know where, but I probably picked up the book somewhere, and I was reading it, and like it just it's fantastic. Like just as a graphic novel, same as the graphic novel for History Violence, which they made into a movie as well. But it's like these core dirty, grimy crime comics, that just sort of like it really shows you how far you can stretch with the industry, like, how you're only limited by your imagination. You can tell any story
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
comics medium. And it's like watching a really cool movie. It makes sense as to why film people grab up these comic properties, because you basically have the style and the theme already there. You just have to figure out a way to translate it into live action.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. So, have you ever tried your hand at writing, or has it always just been about art for you?
Well, I tried it with my book
You were in
shows.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was the concept of that?
Well, it was a crime fiction-y
Oh, hey.
um, block noir as well, sort of, but it was sort of it's told in the far future. Hawkshaws is just another term for gumshoe detective.
Mm-hmm.
So it was set in the future with two detectives trying to solve crimes in the future. Sort of like a Blade Runner mixed with the Hardy Boys type, you know.
That's quite an overlap.
Yeah.
Have you ever been interested in trying to do your own, like create your own book or doing something
Well,
like
I'm
that
actually working on it. It's just taking me quite a bit, taking me quite a while. I'm trying to do a trade paperback, but you know, bills and deadlines of my main books, keep me, it's stretched out my time of finishing it, trying to completion.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully this year, hopefully I can finish it this year.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm very excited to see that. Is it you're gonna do a Kickstarter thing or?
Still not. I still haven't decided. I'm discussing with a few people, few publishers, a few editors that are directing me, giving me advice. So I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
But like I said, when you have it completed, there's opportunities left and right for it.
Absolutely. And as far as your process goes, have you adapted any sort of new, you know, technological advancements? Like, do you still do pen and paper, ink, that sort of style, or are you on to
Yeah. Mainly covers though. Everything because of speed and deadlines, everything is digital right now. But I'd like to do my book traditional because down the line, hey, you run on hard times, hey, you got to sell the originals, And the approach that I'm trying to take with this is a ink wash grayscale type of tone, and I can't imitate that well on the on computer. I can pencil and I can ink on computer, but I'm still not a master of doing watercolor and painting on digitally.
Well, that's like the hardest part. Like that, like to me, the easier coloring would be the easiest part digitally, more so than the drawing and the inking.
Yeah,
Like for you, it's the opposite.
I can't really. I can do flat colors. I can do Disney animation color, but I cannot do I need to control it traditionally. I'm better with the actual brush in hand.
Yeah.
Than I am a digital brush.
If anything, the digital world has kind of made things easier for me because, like, I would find trying to ink. I moved just to the pens because I've tried to do the classic ink flange and all that, and I would ruin stuff more often than I would not. Because you'd always just scrape the paper and just leave a huge ink.
I was never good with the crow quill, and then when Wacom tablet came out, I was able to imitate it well. But when I go to like I said, coloring things, that's when I have to go back to traditional.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's surprising. Is like I said, that's like completely the opposite of what I'd expect.
No, I'm better with watercolor and gouache than I am with Photoshop.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I mean, I'm impressed by that for sure. So are you like, just because I noticed a lot of your projects sort of dip into the horror, and I know projects aren't reminiscent of your taste because it's just whatever comes your way. But do you have an affinity for horror books or that sort of stuff?
I do not. I think I'm pretty much equal on all of them. I'm mostly science fiction, but yeah, I guess since I got teamed with Victor on the Destroyer and teamed with Elliot on Army of Darkness, and everybody started thinking, hey, he's a horror. But I guess because since I don't have a gritty or grimy style, that they reach out to me to do horror because they know I won't make it so violent and so graphic. I guess my style gives it a little bit of leeway with what you're able to produce on paper without breaking the comics code. I guess my style isn't so, as realistic looking.
Yeah. Well, do you find like that industry wise, most folks want to try to put you in a box? Like, as far as like, it's easy to get pinholed into something like that. If they're like, well, you've done a bunch of sci-fi books, so you're a sci-fi artist.
Well, I do think I don't receive as many superhero people don't reach out to me to do enough superhero books because they see me do Shaft. They see that I've done Battlestar Galactica. People out of costume. I don't know if they think that I can't draw in costume. They don't think I can draw muscles because I'm always drawing people in suits and ties and dresses. And I don't know, maybe that's how it's, come about. That's how I'm looked upon right now. Maybe I have become pigeonholed. But if so, that's fine.
Yeah, you're happy.
As long as I'm staying employed, that's fine.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's very, very cool. Awesome. So as far as future projects go, you have the one you're working on that you can't discuss.
Right.
And you're
David in my own, yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. So do you know when there'll be an update on that one? Like where it's
I'm not sure. I'm trying to get him some stuff right now so he can start marketing, because he wants to get ahead of it right now.
Of course. And then do you find like on that side of things, that like, because there was a time, and especially you would know because you work within the system, but when you're just hired to draw, that's your job, or to ink or whatever. Like you have one specific goal. But now in the world of like, self-publishing and this sort of marketing stuff, like you almost have to become a marketing person too.
Yeah.
And work almost doubly as much just to get your stuff out there. And like I'm finding it even just doing this, it's nice to do the conversation and mix it together and throw it online. But like, now you got to like make videos and you got to put them on TikTok and you got to do all that sort of stuff to get as many eyes as you can on it. And it just sort of like, you can see you get lost in the minutia of it and kind of, become more of a marketing person than an actual creator.
Right. Yeah. You sometimes have to mark out sometimes an hour to 2 hours a day to, like you said, get the videos rolling, put it all online, and you're becoming more of a businessman than you are an artist. So it's tough. It's tough to balance.
Yeah.
I can tell you I hate it.
Most art types do.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember who I was talking to, but they're like, I don't want to do Kickstarter. And they were like, because I don't want to spend half my day marketing. Like I just want to draw.
Right.
I
mean, I would love to be able to hire an assistant to let them handle the PR department and let me just stay in the lab.
Yeah.
But that's not how it is. You have to play this game. You have to get on Instagram. You have to get on Facebook and TikTok. And if you fall off for a little bit, the algorithm will know it and they'll push you further and further down the feed. So it's like to fall into the madness.
It's a continual rat race that you're never going to win. Like every time you think you have a handle on it, and plus there's 1,000 other people doing the same thing, right?
Right.
So it's easy to quickly feel quite overwhelmed by it, for sure.
And then I see these guys screaming, "Oh, I have 100,000 followers, but I only got 500 likes today." I'm like, "Well, dadgum, dude, be happy with that."
Yeah, well, that's it too, because it just expands your audience in a way, but also you're always pushing further, so nothing's ever really good enough. It can always be better, right?
Right.
I imagine. I wonder who like what creators would be at the level where they don't need to care about it anymore. But I don't know. I feel like in comics, nobody's that high, but there's always this weird connection between the source material like comics and the films or the TV shows and the things that are popular, like on a huger level than the comics ever normally are. Yeah. So like in a way you're influencing that, but you're also like on a level way below seeing any benefit from what comes from those things.
Yeah. Remember when Wizard magazine used to have the top 10 artists and top 10 writers?
Right.
Yeah, maybe we need to have something like that again,
I even would like the Wizard magazine again. That was maybe the day of the magazine is probably, ending. But I mean, with tablets and stuff, you can get it all digitally.
Yeah.
I used to love that. And it was I had Mike Carlin on recently too, from he's the editor in DC for Superman, the Death of Superman storyline and all that. And he was sort of vocal on Wizard and projects in Wizard, and just other people who's Alex Robinson I had on too. He did Box Office Poison. He and that Wizard sort of like really helped him get that book off the ground because they did like a big feature on it. So I guess it's all websites now, like Bleeding Cool or any of those sort of things are probably like the new Wizard magazine, sadly. But I see you had worked on, and it's funny because I didn't know this until I just glanced through this because I ordered it, but I haven't picked it up yet. The Noir is the New Black compilation.
What is it?
Noir is the New Black compilation.
Oh, yeah.
I had Fabrice on the show recently.
Yeah, I saw Fabrice at Orlando MegaCon recently. Yeah.
Oh, really? I just had him on the episode's not out yet, but he's on the show. He'll be in a couple episodes behind you. But what was that like? Like, because speaking with Fabrice was really cool because you can really tell he truly cares. Like the social, trying to have representation and approach social matters like he does through his books. It's very important to him. So he's very passionate about it. You can tell, and as far as making sure that everything that people's stories get out there of all walks of life. So was that something that like bled through, or is he just like do what you want to do and it's in the book? Or
well, Fabrice pretty much was pretty lenient on what took place. He had so many stories that he was editing at the time. He was pretty loose with all of us. So yeah, it was me working with Brandon Thomas on a 5-page story. So all the stories are rather short. So he didn't really have too much of a say on what took place. He read the story, asked me which one that I would like, because I think it was like 3 or 4 different stories to choose from. I decided to work with Brandon because he gave me the option to work with David, but I worked with David previously on something and I wanted to try a different writer. Worked with Brandon on it. I believe Fabrice said he actually is inquiring with the different writers and artists about continuing it if anyone wants to continue their story, because not every story ended in their brief time. I don't know how far along they are on the second one. What did the second one just come out, or is
the first one just came out? I believe or did, and I just saw it as a recent book release in the comic store that I go to.
Or maybe I was looking at something else. I thought I saw Mr. Joe Illidge talk about a volume 2. Maybe I'm mistaken.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah,
it's very cool. It's neat seeing him. I'm always impressed with people that are pick up their bootstraps and do their own thing. That he was like had some success in the comic world with Spider-Man Noir and all that, but then obviously it's not like we had a long discussion about that character and what it's like to work on somebody else's thing. And then so you don't really have a say in where it goes because it's not yours. So he sort of took what he learned from that and went off to help other people have their own stories and their own characters.
Fabrice is a great dude. He's very, very passionate about the industry and helping others and trying to get everyone seen, every walk of life seen and their story told. So I'd love to continue working with him and his company again. And I actually had like I said, a conversation with him, but it got interrupted and I can't even remember what. And then I never saw him at the end of the convention. So I actually need to reach out to him and see our conversation where it was going.
Oh yeah, awesome, cool. Hopefully more work or more stuff in that world as well. I guess final question as far as the crime books go and the noir stuff you've worked on. Do you have an inspiration? Like, is there stuff you read or you watch or movies in that genre that are favorites of yours?
No, nothing is really my favorite. But I guess those books have a calling to me because I was a big fan of reading Dashiell Hammett's books. Pretty much everyone that he's written. Now, everyone knows about the Maltese Falcon and all that, but I'm talking about the Red Harvest.
Red Harvest is awesome. Yeah. I love that book. I read it I read the Maltese Falcon. I loved it, and I was like, well, I'll just see what else is there. And then I read Red Harvest next, and I was like, why isn't this a movie? And like Raymond Charles as well. Was Trouble Is My Business, and all these.
but like Dashiell Hammett, Nick and Nora Charles, all the adventures that they went on. The Thin Man, yeah.
Oh wow! I actually just been getting into Walter Mosley because
Oh, yeah.
I watched Devil in a Blue Dress like last week, and I was blown away with how good that movie was. Like
Yeah, yeah.
blown away, and then I looked up the book, and then there's like 15 of them, so like that character has a whole run of books, and I was like, why aren't there more movies? 'Cause if there's 15 books, I would love to see, because the movie ends with him setting up as a detective. It's like, why can't I get more of this? Like, I'd love to see that story play out.
Yeah.
But it's such an iconic kind of character. And I guess I have one final question, since I don't want to keep you, longer than I know you're busy. So, you worked on a book called "The President Killed My Dog," and and that title is provocative enough for me to be like, I feel like I need to ask him a question about it at least, because it's just like somebody. I feel like that's the kind of thing where someone came up with a title and then worked backwards. But it certainly is provocative and drew my attention. So I was like, I got to ask him about it because I will never have another chance. So.
So a quick synopsis. It is so bad. My memory is so bad. That is so what's wrong with me right now.
Oh, it's so good.
She's a widow who has a dog that she loves. She's a hoarder. On the way back from one of her hoarding ventures, her dog is injured, and as she's rushing to the vet, she can't make it back to the vet because the president is in town and his cavalcade is holding up traffic.
Okay.
So, in her mind, the president has killed my dog.
Uh-huh.
And that's
And it's a revenge mission.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was I was curious. I was like, man, because the cover looks like the cavalcade hit the dog, and I was like, oh man. I'm like, is this the story?
But as she's making it on her way to the festival and the event where the president is at,
mm-hmm.
certain little things start unlocking in her, certain maneuvers and techniques on getting through the guards, unlocking in her mind. It makes you think, was she a secret agent planted here?
Oh, so there's a deeper story. Okay.
Yeah. and the president does happen to be Trump.
Oh, okay, that's even better. That's even better. Well, how is the vibe going in the about the upcoming election and everything in your neck of the woods? Not to get too political, but it's sort of I just watched it was like the new Last Week Tonight or something earlier today when I was doing some work, and yeah, I feel like every election in every country, like we have our own issues here with them as well, are always kind of like a weird divisive thing. But it feels like it's getting very divisive in the States, like scarily divisive.
I'm actually going to hold off until Trump's case with Jack Smith starts to approach. Then I'm going to get a better feel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Forgot that's coming up, right?
Yeah, then I'll get a better feel. If that comes to court before the election, then I'll understand where this country is going to go.
Yeah, that's true.
If that doesn't make it to court before election, Trump's going to be president.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. Another couple of years. There's this movie coming out by what's his name? Alex Garland. He did like Ex Machina, that robot movie. Men was like a horror movie he did recently. He wrote like 28 Days Later and a few other movies too, but it's called Civil War, and it's like about a modern day civil war in America. And I watched the trailer and I was like, this seems eerily, it comes out just before the election too, and it's like, this seems eerily prophetic. Like, I hope not, but
that's why everyone loves the Handmaid's Tale,
right? Yeah. Yeah, written by a Canadian, actually. Margaret Atwood wrote those books, but yeah. Oh, who knows what the future holds? As long as we get to keep making comics and reading them.
Yeah, Republican and Democrat, who's ever in office, as long as they keep the comic book industry flowing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, I don't care about your foreign policy or your whatever. Just how do you feel about comics, Mr. President?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Start putting, some of the comics in the movie theaters, when the movies are,
that'd be a good idea. I'm surprised that's not something they do. Because I don't know, like, I feel, and maybe as someone that's, connected to it, Like you probably, do you have any characters that you worked on that made it into a movie after you had worked on them? Like,
No, none yet.
no?
I'm
All right.
hoping.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if as someone working for one of these industries, if even if you create a character that makes it in the movie, if you're really going to see much come trickle down your way, because
Right.
that's what work for hire kind of does.
Yeah.
But the idea that there's like there's such a divide between the source material and like the fans, and people that complain about how they don't like certain characters are depicted in movies or whatever, that have barely read the comics or
Yeah.
really read the comics and really hate when they make changes, because it's such a weird divide with source material and like what fans want to see and then what they need to do to make everybody happy, which is
Yeah.
usually not the same thing.
Well, like I said, it's so many chefs in our kitchen.
Oh yeah.
We all want to dictate. It's like, no, it's not true to the comics. No, it's not true to that part of the comic. Well, it was true in the 80s. It's not true in the 90s. It's
Yeah.
it's different timelines.
And that's it. Like when people are like, well, like this is like I'm excited to see what James Gunn's going to do with his DC universe when that happens. Because I'm like, I want to see like a funner Batman. I don't want, like I just don't want Batman to have to be like basically just a hair away from being a full psychopath himself in every movie that they do.
Yeah.
Like let's make him kind of fun. He doesn't need to be like cracking jokes, or being Spider-Man or something. But the idea that he's not like the worst, like the way he was on like the animated series, the Batman animated series, or like the Neil Adams when he's like with a hairy chest, like having a sword fight with Ra's al Ghul in the desert somewhere, like something a little funner, and people forget about that. It's like Batman was first off like the Punisher; he was killing people left and right. Then it became like a completely goofy person, like the Dick Sprang ridiculous stuff, and then where he's like that kind of influenced the Adam West show, and then like it wasn't until then he was kind of just an adventure-y superhero. Until Arkham Asylum, and then The Dark Knight Returns, and then it all went dark again, and it's been that way ever since. But it's just like there's so many aspects to all these characters and timelines and in history that when someone's like, well, this character wouldn't do that, and you're like, well, that version of the character might not. But there's one point where they were definitely, doing that. Like me and Davin talk about that with X-Men often, because, he'll be like, we ran out of show when we were doing the X-Men cartoon, and now we're doing the movies. And he's like, well, Magneto wouldn't do that. And I'm like, well, there are many versions of Magneto that definitely would have done that, like over the years. But who knows anyway. But
we can tell DC this as well. Hey, there are more characters that you have besides Batman. You can make more movies.
That's right. I know. And that's the Hollywood thing. It's like, this is what people like, this did well. So we just need more of that. Instead, like, let's not try anything else new or exciting, or even think that, hey, maybe there's an appetite for comics. But it's just like, we have like 3 Batman movie continuities rolling at the same time,
Right.
There's the Matt Reeves Batman, the Joker movie, and then like whatever James Gunn is doing. It's like, plus whatever's happening on TV. It's just, it's I don't know. But yeah, you're right. It boils right down to comics. Like, as long as we can enjoy the comics and keep rolling with that.
Yeah.
I'll be pretty happy. Well, thank you so much for being in the show, Dietrich. This is great.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's a real pleasure having you on. I'm looking forward to seeing that project whenever it comes. Let me know what it is. I'll be happy to promote it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, have a good day and enjoy Drawn.
You too, man.
All right. Bye-bye. There it is, my chat with Dietrich O. Smith. A ton of fun, as always. I've been lucky having these interviews and having great conversations with some really cool people. I listen to other shows that are kind of like this, mostly Mark Maron's podcast, which I've mentioned before I'm a big fan of. But, sometimes he talks about having a tough time with certain interviews because people are hard to talk to. But often, he'll talk about other things as well, with issues with those and whatnot. But truly, I've been lucky because I don't think there's any interviews that have been really, really hard. Some people are a little harder to get questions out of than others, but all said and done, great conversations with great people. And I'm so happy to keep bringing this show to you and have such great guests. So big thanks to producer Davin for helping with that as well. So be sure to tune in to our next episode in 1 week's time when I'll be talking with Great guy, Micah Myers, who does, he's a letterer in comics, which is something we haven't had in the show yet before. So I'm very excited to chat with a letterer and get the letterer's take on the things and find out about that. So very pumped to chat with a letterer finally, and that's going to be a great conversation as well. So tune in 1 week's time for that. In the meantime, stay safe, have fun, read comics, watch movies, and do all the good stuff, because that's what it's there for. Create some art. That's your homework assignment. Create some art. Catch you next time. The Graphic Histories Podcast is a proud partner of the United Federation of Podcasts.